the time to go getters. So the time to go getters are business owners that have been in business for the length of time that they want to be in that particular business, and now they want to move on to their next project. Now that next project can be retirement. That's the easy one. Then the other next project could be another style of business. It could be a totally different career change. What it means is it means getting out of what you're in and into something else. And when it's time to go, there's a whole heap of stuff that needs to be done. The second thing in awareness that's really, really crucial is the discovery of your business value. Now, if you don't know what your business value is, then chances are that you don't know how business valuation is put together. So I'm going to take you through some real basics of business valuation and how the things that you do day to day affect that value. So the first thing I do when I'm working with a client on awareness is I look at the profitability of the business. So that's the starting point. So what kind of profits have we made over the last 3 years? Have there been reasons for the profit to go up or down? So when somebody as a third party is going to look to buy your business, then they're going to look at those factors when they do their due diligence. They're going to want reasons for the movements in your profitability. Now, when we look at profitability, we look at this concept that they call Ebitda, E-B-I-T-D-A for the non-accountants in the room. Now, what that means is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. And it's just a fancy acronym and a fancy name that accountants use to basically say your profit plus all of the add backs that are irrelevant to really working out what the true profit of this business actually is. But that would be a really, really long acronym if we did all of those letters. So what you're looking at is you're looking at adding back things like depreciation. You're looking at factoring in owners' wages, because that can be a significant one when it comes to valuations. I had a business recently that purchased a business, and the accountant for the seller had actually omitted the owner's wage. Now, by looking at that valuation and saying, well, hang on, we need to allow a commercial wage for the owner first and foremost in this profitability, that meant a significant difference in the valuation, massive difference. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars just by one factor. Now, if your profitability is low, then you need to work at increasing the profitability. If your profitability is high, you need to look at other factors that are in there. Now, when I talk other factors that are in there, the other factor of a business valuation is risk. So many of you will have heard that there's different rules of thumb for different businesses, different multiples that are thrown around. Oh yeah, 2 times profit plus a truck. Oh yeah, 3 times fees. Whatever it may be, 1 times fees, dollar for dollar for the accountants in the room. But these are just multiples of different factors within the business. Now, what a true multiple is a factor of the risk of your business. So if your business is a risky concern, then somebody's going to want to pay less for it than the same type of business that is less risky. What could make a business risky? Well, it could be that 80% of your revenue is to one customer. That would be risky, because if that one customer leaves, particularly on a changeover of owners, then you're left with a business that really isn't worth a lot. Now, that's an extreme example, but when we look at businesses, we look at those type of things. It could be that you're in an industry that's heavily affected. So at the moment, if you're buying a hospitality business, do you think that it would be risky, or do you think that it would be not risky? Then obviously you're going to pay less for a hospitality business than you maybe would in non-COVID times. Obviously there's an effect of profitability there as well, but this multiple that people talk about is all about risk and factoring in those risk factors in business. And there's a whole long list of risk factors that you need to look at. Is it easy for you to be able to sell this business to another person? Can they see themselves running it? Who is the buyer? Sometimes the buyer doesn't care about what the internal structure of the business is because they just want to grab volume and absorb you into their structure that actually works. So there's a whole heap of factors come into the multiple when you look at business valuation. So you might say, well, why is business valuation important? What's that got to do with anything? And the issue with business valuation is that we all have a number. We call it the magic number. And we all have a number in our business. It's the number that would allow us to move away from the business and move on to something else. Now, if we're looking at moving away from the business and onto something else, we need some level of remuneration for that. To move to that next step, we need a pool of money. Now, the problem with the business sales industry, and I used to be a business broker, the problem with the business sales industry is that most people value their business based on what they need to pay off their loans and then some, to move on, to retire, do whatever they want to do. So their business valuation has nothing to do with profitability. It has nothing to do with risk. Has everything to do with their personal situation. Now, you buying that business, you couldn't give two hoots about what their personal situation is. Why should you pay a certain price for a business based on their level of debt? Now, why magic number is important is because if you need a particular number to move on to your next step, let's say it's $500,000, just to keep the numbers simple. Then if you want $500,000 to move on to your next step, it could be a holiday, it could be retirement, you might have to still put the kids through uni, there could be weddings, it could be a whole raft of things that you need to do, or you might just be wanting to buy a different type of business. Then what do you need to take from that sale? What is your magic number? So you work that number out. Now, if that's $500,000, then you need your business to be worth $500,000 to support that. What happens if it isn't? What happens if your business is worth $300,000? Well, you've got a gap. And we call that the valuation gap. And that is a real shame for a lot of business owners, is that they leave it too late to get out of their business to actually work on bridging that valuation gap. They leave it too long to improve the profitability of their business. They leave it too long to improve the risk factors in their business, which will have an effect on the multiple and therefore the price. So the earlier you can get in, understand your magic number, which can change, understand your valuation factors and how you can move the dial on all of those, then the better off you'll be. And you can bridge that valuation gap and you can actually achieve the position that you want to achieve. So that's why understanding this stuff and becoming aware of it up front is really, really important.